3 years ago, I did a video ranking every single baseball game on the Super Nintendo, and since then I've had a few requests to take a look back at that video, but this time on the Sega Genesis. What's going on, everybody? I'm Jay. Welcome to Square Pegs. And that's right, today we are going over to my personal favorite 16-bit powerhouse, the Sega Genesis, because as we all know, it does what Nintendo don't, and we are looking at every single baseball game released in the United States and ranking them all. There's 25 of them. We're going alphabetically, and we're starting off with the greatest shortstop of all time. All right, we're just going to run things alphabetically here, and that means we are starting off with the letter C, which that's not actually how our alphabet starts, of course. You know that. It starts with the letter A. But we are starting with Cal Ripken Jr. Baseball here on the Sega Genesis, and this one is actually something I enjoyed more than the SNES version. Now, as far as game modes go, you can do an exhibition game, you can play a league, there's a home run derby, you can edit rosters, and that's about it. There's also only 3 different stadiums to choose from, so there's hardly any kind of Major League Baseball representation here. Like, you have cities representing the teams, you don't have a full league, and none of the players are real except for, assumably, Cal Ripken, because now I realize as I'm recording this, I didn't actually check the Baltimore team to see who they have. But that's kind of where the bad part ends, because once you actually get into game, it plays pretty well. Like, first and foremost, there's actually a pretty remarkably competent digitized voice in this game, which is really impressive to hear because usually they don't sound great, but this one doesn't sound terrible. The gameplay isn't bad. It plays like a traditional baseball game. Like, the camera works really well. Like, everything is scaled really well, so there's not kind of like any weird issues that I experienced, at least trying to justify where the ball was coming from for the pitcher versus the size of my batter. It was all scaled really well, and like the fielding and everything felt good. Hitting was solid, and this game was pretty good. In the grand scheme of things, it comes out and isn't bad, at the very least. I keep saying it's pretty good. It's not bad. I'm going to give Cal Ripken Jr. Baseball a C on the Genesis. It does end up being fairly average just because of the lack of game modes, the lack of teams, the lack of stadium options, the lack of Major League Baseball licensing. So it does kind of get knocked from there, but from a core gameplay perspective, this comes in right in the middle of the pack. ESPN Baseball Tonight was one of my favorite television shows when I was younger. I loved watching Baseball Tonight. And my favorite thing starting off this game is starting off with a 16-bit version of the Baseball Tonight theme song. Absolutely love it. Chris Berman's digitized voice and visage is nightmare fuel, but other than that, this game is actually pretty good. Like, the options here, you can play a one-player game, you can do exhibition, practice, or home run derby. You can set up different league options as well, which is pretty cool. And I like that you're able to turn on assisted fielding, because you will find that one of my biggest complaints of most 16-bit games is that the fielding is terrible, and it's actually really competent in this one. And the gameplay when you get in game, really good. Like, digitized voice is spot on. The gameplay is really good. It actually feels like a solid baseball game, like a really competently designed baseball game. And I want to especially call out, like, the animations for the players in this game are ridiculously good. The smoothest of any baseball game I've seen in decades, like legitimately decades. It is unbelievable how smooth this looks. I'm really impressed with this one. It's a very fun game. It holds together very well. It's tough. Like, it's actually like a solid baseball game with a good challenge to it. It's not just figure out the timing and then you're set. It's actually got some difficulty to it. I'm going to give ESPN Baseball Tonight an A. I was really impressed with this one, and I'm pleased that it was as good as it is. All right, let's start with the good for Frank Thomas's Big Hurt Baseball. First off, the game modes you have are exhibition mode, season mode, a playoff mode, which I think is really cool. I wish more games did that, more sports games did that. Home run derby and what they call clutch time. There's also options that you can work with, and that's great. This game is a really interesting kind of spin on baseball. It plays like other games on this list, and it's very clearly inspired by other games on this list, at least in terms of its setup, but it also differs in major ways. Like, it feels a little more arcadey, I guess, to me, and that's both to its benefit and its detriment. Like, the hitting is, to me, is really, really solid. Like, I love the gigantic batter on screen, and he's a digitized character, kind of like the characters from Mortal Kombat, for example. And I think that's pretty cool. The animations are a little choppy, so I am going to knock it a bit there. The fielding in the game is hard. It is not great. I have been like spot on where a ball was going to land for a fly ball, and it's just missed me. It's gone over my head, and that makes it a little bit frustrating to enjoy. And I wish that weren't the case, because otherwise I would really like this game. But the fielding issues really, really take me out of it. I'm going to give Frank Thomas Big Hurt Baseball a C. I think it's a pretty average game overall in terms of gameplay, but your mileage might vary on this. This might be the exactly kind of baseball game that you're looking for, in which case your ranking might be higher. But for me, comes in middle of the pack. The first hardball to me feels like a bit of a relic. Like, it feels like something that just kind of magically appeared on my Genesis one day rather than being on my Amiga, because it feels like a computer game, both to its benefit and to its detriment. There's not a ton of gameplay options to choose from here, not a lot of different game modes. I do like the batting practice mode, so you can kind of set it up to, as a batter, get an idea of what the different pitches are going to look like as they're coming into you in-game. You're able to choose from all of the Major League Baseball teams that were present in Major League Baseball at the time, which is nice. There's no actual, like, stadiums to speak of or anything like that, and the pitching is okay, the hitting is okay, the fielding is okay. Like, it feels old, I guess. Like, it just doesn't feel fun. Like, and I realize this, this is like almost a 40-year-old game I'm talking about at this point. Of course it feels old, but it's just one of those games where I play it and I'm like, this would have felt old when it came out if I'd played it when it released. Not my thing, not my favorite game. I'm actually going to give the first hardball a D, just because I really don't like that over-the-shoulder angle when batting for being behind the pitcher. I don't like that kind of like pitcher over-the-shoulder camera. I don't really care for the hitting. The gameplay modes are lacking. It's not a great overall game to me. So I'm going to give it a D and hope that the future hardball games get better. Hardball 3 was our next hardball game on the Sega Genesis, and it continues the tradition of not having a ton of gameplay modes. You have exhibition, league play, and batting practice, and really that's it. Again, kind of like the first one, while you do have the Major League Baseball players, which is great, there is a Major League Baseball Player Association license in this one. You don't have any of the teams, so it's kind of lacking in that regard. They do add Al Michaels as a digitized voice commentator in the game, and it's fine. It's a little bit slow. It sounds a lot like you would expect it to for a fully featured digitized play-by-play commentator from the mid-90s. It's a little bit behind the times, and it doesn't really keep up with the gameplay all that well. Timing is a little bit off on things. They did move the batting camera behind the batter now, which I really do like, but I don't know. The timing on the swings and everything like that just feels off. And I think, kind of like what I was alluding to with the first game on this list with Cal Ripken Baseball, one of my issues is that the scaling of the pitcher to the batter is almost identical. So I can't really pick up where the ball is coming from, and I'm having a harder time with that than I would have anticipated just based on the scale of the pitcher. Like, I wish he was a little bit smaller and the ball got a little bit bigger as it came towards you, as opposed to just kind of existing. And it does get a little bit bigger, but it's not so much that it's something that I feel is enough. So it does make things a little bit more difficult. That said, there are improvements. Like, it's still a little clunky. It's still a little choppy. It doesn't run terribly smoothly, but the fielding is a little bit better. The camera improvement is significantly noticeable to me and makes things much better than being over the shoulder of the pitcher when you're hitting. So that's nice. And I do like that there's actual, like, Major League Baseball stadiums now. Like, I'm playing at the Monster, as you can see here in the White Sox at the Red Sox game. So I'm going to bump it up a little bit to a C. It's not great, and it doesn't get above average, but it comes in middle of the pack. An almost identical review here for Hardball 94 as I had for Hardball 3. And spoilers, it's probably going to be the same for Hardball 95 as well. It's just not the kind of game I want to spend a ton of time with. It's almost line for line the same game as Hardball 3. Same game modes, exhibition game, league play, batting practice. Same issues in game with the scaling of the pitcher and the ball not scaling up enough, although it is slightly better in this game, at least by my eyes. It isn't done well enough for me to really enjoy it. Love the real Major League Baseball stadiums in here, like you can see here I'm playing at Wrigley, but just not overall something that I think rises above average. This comes in at a C. And here we are with Hardball 95, and yeah, same issues as what was experienced with Hardball 3 and Hardball 94. It just persists. Like, it feels slow. The scaling issues are there for me. Again, that's a personal thing for me. Your mileage might vary on that. And it's just, it's not as fun as I would hope it would be. It's a little bit slow. It's a little bit clunky. Doesn't have a ton of gameplay modes. Al Michaels is still here and still lagging behind in his commentary. It gets a C. It's average. All right, there's some really good stuff here to like about MLBPA Baseball. So first off, you have every Major League Baseball player in the league at the time represented in this game, which is awesome. There are some different game modes here. You can play a single game, you can play the league playoffs, you can play just the World Series, or you can run a full season, which was huge. That was kind of unheard of at the time for sports games. So to be able to play an entire 162-game Major League Baseball season, pretty amazing. Every team is represented here. You're able to choose from all of them. Not the real teams, not the real logos, and not the real stadiums, but that can be forgiven if the gameplay is good. And from a pitching and a hitting perspective, the gameplay is excellent. It is when you get to fielding and camera placement of the fielding where the game becomes an absolute nightmare. It's just not good. The camera does not zoom out far enough on a pop fly, so you can't tell where your players are, other than like their little yellow box on the mini map that's on screen. You have to kind of rely on that, not necessarily moving the right character at the same time as you're trying to adjust things on that mini map. So it does become a bit frustrating as far as fielding goes, which does knock this down quite a bit, because before that, just playing the hitting and the pitching, I was ready to put this at an S tier because I thought it was a very clever interpretation of what baseball could be on a home console. With that fielding being an issue and it taking away some of the fun and adding a metric ton of frustration to the gameplay for me, I'm going to knock MLBPA Baseball down to a B. And I wish it was better because I really do enjoy this game other than that. MLBPA Sports Talk Baseball was a really interesting one. So I remember when this released, I think, around the same time as Joe Montana Sports Talk Football. And I was blown away by the fact that digital voices were a thing. Like, I had never really experienced that before outside of Sinistar in the arcades. So to get a home console game that talked to me blew my mind when I was younger. Now, today, it sounds like ass. But the gameplay itself, really good. Like, this is a really solid baseball game. I love that the mercy rule is a thing, so if you go up by 10 runs or more, you automatically win. There's not really any gameplay modes here going on. It is a really solid game, though. Like, it's basically just single player and go. You have all the rosters from 92. There's all-star game rosters that can be updated and altered, and it's just a fun game. I'm going to give Sports Talk Baseball just because there's some decidedly lacking stuff in this game. I'm going to give it a B just because the gameplay is solid, but if they had like stuck with this formula and kept making games in this engine, we could have had some all-time greats. Oh, I am of mixed minds on RBI Baseball 3 because I'm a fan of the RBI Baseball series. I'm not going to lie to you. I was predisposed to liking this one going into it. And when I got into game and started playing, it was exactly what I wanted it to be. The fielding is good, the hitting is good, the pitching is good, the look is good, the sound is good. It just works. It plays like an NES baseball game, which I guess is kind of what I'm looking for when I'm playing a retro video baseball game. But where the game falls flat on its face is where I need to compare it to its peers on the Sega Genesis. And there is nothing here for gameplay options. You have one player or two player. That's your choice. That's it. You can choose from any of the Major League Baseball teams. You can choose to play against anyone you want. So there's interleague play built in, which is great, but there's nothing else happening here. And I have to knock it for that. And I can't knock it far, but I have to knock it down. I have to give it a B. This was an S just from a gameplay perspective because everything from that is perfect. But if you're looking for something that has features, this ain't the game for you. Okay, RBI Baseball 4, I see you heard my complaints about your previous game, and you decided to make some corrections here. So first off, we got gameplay modes, folks. We got standard exhibition play ball, That's what it's called in this one. You can do a home run derby. You can actually go on stadium tours. There's a thing called Game Breakers as well. I think the fine folks at EA Sports should know that Game Breakers were invented first on Tengen. So all you NBA Street fans, it was here first. You can play single games. You can play a division game. You can play best of 7 series. You can play against all teams. And it's pretty cool. Like, it does a lot of stuff here. I really appreciate that. The gameplay itself is pretty solid. I think the look suffers a little bit because everything feels like it's weird. Like, every stadium has this weird grid pattern on the field, which is odd. But the gameplay itself is really good. Like, it feels like a solid baseball game. It feels like classic RBI baseball, and that's what I'm looking for. It just tosses in a ton of gameplay options, at least compared to RBI Baseball 3. I'm going to give RBI Baseball 4 an A. I really like this one. I mean, I can't knock RBI Baseball 93 too far because it's almost a line-for-line reskin of RBI Baseball 4, which I enjoyed and gave it an A. But if I'm being honest, it doesn't really do anything new here. It's a reskin. This is stuff that EA Sports was guilty of, and we knock them for all the time. So I gotta scale back my praise slightly here for RBI Baseball 93. I'm gonna knock it back to a B. This is kind of the curse of iterative sports game development, is that you fall into these ruts. Ask me how I know. I made a lot of NASCAR games, folks, and that's just how it is. So I'm going to knock it back a little bit. Going to give it a B. Still a good game. Still solid. Still fun. RBI Baseball 94 clearly had some love given to it. So you are now able to play some new game types. So you have pickles, so you can actually do some running stuff there. You can actually view all the paid player portraits, which is interesting. And then for series types, you can do single games, you can play against your division, you can do a half season or a full 162 game season, which is, again, impressive. I mentioned that when covering one of the previous games on this list, so it needs to be called out here as well. There's some new gameplay kind of TLC put into things here, like there's more kind of cutscenes and things like that added, or not really cutscenes, but I guess like interstitial scenes put onto the screen as things are happening, like the crowd doing the wave or players rounding the bases and things like that, which I really like. The fielding is good, the hitting is good, the pitching is good. This is as close to perfect as you're going to get on the Sega Genesis for baseball. I am going to give RBI Baseball 94 an S. All right, we're through RBI Baseball. We're about halfway through the list. Let's take a look at where we stand right now. This breaks my heart because Roger Clemens was like my favorite player growing up. He was the ultimate Red Sox for me. And to see his absolute dog shit video game, again, I can't avoid this game when I'm ranking baseball games. Like, it was just everywhere. It was an infection. It is unfortunate because this game's awful. Roger Clemens MVP Baseball should be sent down to single A. This gets an F. Oh man, you remember back in 2020 when the robot uprising took place and they all started playing baseball? Good times. Good times. This is Super Baseball 2020, published by Electronic Arts but developed by SNK, and this is based off of the arcade game of the same name. And I'm a big fan of this game. This is one of my favorite baseball games of all time. I love the ridiculous arcade nature of it. I like that I can basically be a brain in a jar robot and hit the ball really hard or throw the ball really fast. I love the look. I love the gameplay concept. I love that there's different out of bounds and out zones in the game, which I really enjoy. I like that things get added to the field to blow you up. The further into the game you get, it's just a very creative, clever, and interesting way to add life to baseball, and I think that's really good. Now, that said, I don't think this plays as well as the Super Nintendo release, but it's still a really good game. I'm going to give it an A, because if I remember correctly, I gave the Super Nintendo release an S, and you should actually check out the card on screen right now if you want to see every SNES baseball game ranked, but I'm going to give this one an A, like I said. Tecmo Super Baseball is okay. It's not a great game. I haven't had a ton of fun with it. I'm talking myself into a worse score as I'm recording this audio. It's fine. Like, it is very... If the worst case I can say about it is that it's an underperforming game for something that should have been a lot better than it is. Animations are a little choppy, not a ton of gameplay modes to choose from. The gameplay itself is okay, but it's a little bit slow. The camera is really tough on fielding, which I don't care for. So I guess, yeah, the more I'm talking about it, the less I actually really enjoy this game. So I am going to give Tecmo Super Baseball a D. It's not a failure point. This is not Roger Clemens MVP baseball by any stretch of the imagination, but lack of gameplay modes, lack of a good camera, not solid gameplay other than that, just knocks it down to below average for me. Tommy Lasorda Baseball isn't bad. It's an older Genesis game, and I kind of expected it to not be as much fun as it is, but it's a fairly competent title. The hitting is great, the fielding is good, the audio in the game is really good. It feels like a classic baseball game. The biggest knock I have on it is that there aren't a ton of gameplay options. It's just kind of much like other games we've seen on this list. Very bare bones, a few here and there, but not anything that's really fully fleshed out or anything like that. So I'm going to give Tommy Lasorda Baseball a C. I'm going to say it comes in middle of the road just because it doesn't have everything we would expect from a game. And while that should be knocked and should be made note of, the gameplay itself is really fun. So I think coming in at an average with those two things kind of counterbalancing each other works for me. I didn't really like Tony Russa Baseball. And I was surprised by that because this is like the same generation as NHL and NHLPA hockey. So I figured I was really going to like it, but I just don't. There's not a ton of gameplay modes. There's not a ton of like actual competent gameplay happening here. It's pretty slow. It's very choppy. I just don't like this one in the slightest. I am going to give Tony Russa Baseball a D. It's sometimes you run into those games that just aren't fun for you, and this is one of them for me. It's just not fun. It gets a D. I don't really like Tony Russa 95 either. It's more issues that are the same to me. It's choppy, it's slow, the fielding stinks, and it's kind of like questionable fielding too. Like there were plays where I thought I should have had the catch, and it didn't record it, and there were plays where I was convinced I was steps away from being able to catch the ball, and it recorded an out. So I don't get it. I don't get it. It's not great. I am not a fan of this one. I do not like the Tony Russa series. It also gets a D. The Triple Play series was the series that came after Tony Russa Baseball and MLBPA Baseball from EA Sports. And I actually really like the Triple Play series. I don't think it's perfect, but I like it a lot more than I liked the Russa series. You have different game modes like Exhibition, Season Mode, All-Star Games, the Playoffs, the World Series Championship, and a General Manager mode, which first I've ever seen that in a 16-bit game. The gameplay itself is actually really solid. The characters in the batter box are massive, and it feels big. The hitting is good. The fielding is good. It's a fun game. Like, God forbid a baseball game be enjoyable and actually move quickly. And I even like the little details like being able to adjust your batting stance while you're in the batter's box. I think that's really cool. Open up your stance more for more pull power, things like that. It's really well done. I am going to give Triple Play 96 a B. I think this is a really solid game. Triple Play Gold is just about the same as Triple Play 96, so not a whole lot of changes here to discuss. Not really any differences either to discuss. It's a really good game. It plays really well, looks good, sounds good, fun experience. It also gets a B. I really like World Series Baseball on the Game Gear, if I'm being honest with you. I think that might be my favorite sports game on the Game Gear. I think it plays incredibly well. And I was hoping that was going to transfer over here to the Genesis, and it just doesn't, for me at least. There's a few different game modes you can play. There's an exhibition, a home run derby, batting practice, and league play, which is great. But when you get into game, the problems I have with it are positioning related. You know, it's something where the camera is so far zoomed in on your batter that my timing is just off. Like I need to see my full batter's body to be able to actually hit correctly. The graphics in the game are fantastic and look wonderful, but it's just really difficult to hit. And fielding to a degree as well has a little bit of difficulty. And that's okay. It's just one of those things that you kind of have to get used to. It still plays pretty well in the grand scheme of things, and I'm not going to knock it so far as to call it below average, but I'm going to put the first World Series Baseball at a C and hope that's a really good starting point for where the series can go from there. World Series Baseball 95 ends up feeling a lot like the original World Series Baseball. Game modes include Exhibition, Home Run Derby, New Playoffs, Batting Practice, and that's great. The gameplay is almost identical to the first World Series Baseball, with the exception of how to choose your controller, because they have two players run out of the tunnel, and I didn't realize at first that that's what it was trying to explain to me, was you're choosing who to play here, so I just pressed start to go into game, and then I didn't have control because the CPU was playing against itself. And eventually, once I realized how I was being dumb, I actually thought that was kind of a clever way to choose sides. The gameplay in-game is pretty solid. I still think the camera's a little too close in on the batter because my timing is still off as far as hitting goes, but the pitching is fundamental and fantastic. The fielding isn't bad. It does get a little bit difficult at times, but that's okay in the grand scheme of things. I am going to give this one a C+ because it doesn't make enough notable improvements from the original World Series Baseball to give it a full letter grade improvement, but trending in the right direction. World Series Baseball 96 is a lot like World Series Baseball 95. Gameplay modes are the same, although there is League mode now. Might have been there in 95 and I just missed it, but I can see on my gameplay footage, my capture, that it is there on 96. The camera is slightly changed for the batting now, so it is a little bit better than it was. The fielding can still be a little bit difficult, which can lead to some frustration, but I think overall there's enough improvements here to actually fully bump it up to its next letter grade. I like the World Series Baseball franchise. I'm glad that it found some success. I'm glad that we continued to get some really good World Series Baseball games on the lifespan of the Genesis. And this one, to me, gets up to a B. I like this game.
Now batting for the Twins, the third fielder.
And near as I can tell with World Series Baseball 98, this is the same game as World Series Baseball 96. No improvements at all that I can see whatsoever. I think it's literally identical, just some roster updates. And for that, I got to knock it down. I'm going to give 98 a C+. It goes back to where we were for World Series Baseball 95. It could be better. It could be significantly worse. C+. And there you have it, all 25 baseball games released here in the States, ranked on the Sega Genesis. Now, there might be some on here that you think are better than where I ranked them at, and that's totally fine. I invite you to do your own ranking. There is a link in the description down below to a tier maker where you can rank your own picks and let me know what you think. I do want to point out, though, that one of the things that really stuck out to me on this video was how remarkably consistent it was. Because the Super Nintendo had some incredible, like, top-tier games like Ken Griffey Jr., but there were also some absolutely terrible ones. So to get on the Genesis and to see a string of C's and B's and even some A's in there really made me realize how consistently games were made on that console. Let me know in the comments down below your favorite Sega Genesis baseball game. Let me know if you agree with my rankings, disagree. I'd love to hear from you. As I always say, gaming is a tapestry. We are all entitled to have our own opinions, and even if you disagree with me, that's cool, because if we all use the same color thread, this would be an ugly-ass tapestry. Till next time, folks, I've been Jay. Appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me. If you dug this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you really enjoyed it, click the subscribe button. I'd love to have you stick around. I'm on the road to 17,000 subscribers. And hey, let me know if there's anything you want to see me rank down the road. Click the link on screen right now to access my rank and file playlist where every single ranking video I've ever done is housed. Until next time, remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.